What's happening, y'all? Christopher Griffith here, formerly Debt Does Deals, joined by my partner in crime. No, I'm just kidding, not crime. Isabel Williams,
I'm his
previously,
better half. I keep him under control.
right? And so if you don't know, Isabel and I and our team, which is a pretty good sized family now, have been on a journey for about the last 12 months. And that journey, what it's entailed is joining two different families, two different practices and processes, and coming away with the best, cleanest, most thorough experience to benefit our consumers. That's right.
Yeah.
And who are our consumers, Isabel?
Us, right? We are really the community that we serve. It's not just a slogan. I put it all over the place, but I think that every time we think about our clients, we think about ourselves. You know, we all come from small towns, rough upbringings, and just not having access to the tools to help us progress. It doesn't make things impossible, just harder. So I think that our commitment is to continue to educate and empower the community that we come from so that we can see progression, not just within ourselves, but within the same community that we're from.
Right. And true to tradition, last year on April 1st, we announced our partnership and the effort that we'd be undertaking. And so we thought no better day than today, April 1st, 1 year later, to let all of you know that we are now going to be known as Be My Neighbor.
Be my neighbor.
Be my neighbor. It's a pretty simple statement. And like when I think about, well, what is that? What does be my neighbor mean, right? Be my neighbor mortgage. It means ask us a question if you have one, right? Your neighbor will answer a question for you. They're your neighbor. Isabel said, we are the community that we serve. We look around and the people that we serve, the consumers, the clients that we work with are the same people that we go to church with, that watch our kids, that we hang out with on the weekends, that we talk to on Facebook, that we like pictures of kids and flowers and those sorts of fun things. And so we want to create a brand, a community specifically for all of the people that want to be neighborly. Because let me tell you, some of y'all out there don't really seem like you want to be neighbors, you know? Bunch of off-grid cabin livers in the mountain. Not that that wouldn't be bad, but no person is an island. When you look around and you're from a small community or from a very tight community, what you quickly realize is the community is a tight community. It does well. People take care of each other. They look after one another. They keep an eye on each other's kids when they see them at the town fair that they have once a year, right? And you're all vested in the same community. You're all the Yoda Cup. You know, you're all like unique and you're all different, but you're all invested in making certain that each person has an opportunity to move forward, or that they're at the very least looked after and taken care of. So after 12 months of doing this now and trying to explain for the last 3 years what Debt Does Deals means to all of you, I'm kind of glad I don't have to explain it anymore. I thought it was pretty simple. But what we realized is we wanted a brand that communicated directly to the types of people that we want to work with, that we want to support, that we want to bring new perspectives to challenge paradigms they maybe grew up with, to show them how to reach incredible growth. One house changed my life, Isabel. You know that.
Yeah, same here. Like I talk about growing up in my neighborhood. Like I met my childhood best friend because my parents finally stopped moving so much. Prior to that, I was always the new kid in the school, constantly moving back and forth and just never really being able to put down roots. And I actually had a classmate yesterday post a picture of, I think I was our third grade class. I knew every one of the people in the photo, except for maybe 2 or 3 people that I didn't recognize. But man, that's what community is, right? Being able to look at a photo from your childhood and remember those people, because I grew up with them once we actually finally settled down.
Yeah, you're right. Like for me, after all of the time traveling in our family, we're back here, home neighborhood, hometown, right? And my kids literally, every time we leave Walmart or Brookshire's, the grocery store, they're like, Dad, do you know everybody here? Right? It's like, well, there's not a lot of people here. So first of all, not everybody, but you know a lot of people and you have a relationship with them and you look after each other and you show up when no one else will, because that's what community does. And so as an organization that helps consumers with housing related problems, first we step off with mortgage. We are a mortgage company seeking to build community as neighbors to the people that we live by, to the people that we support, to the people that look kind of like us, don't look anything like us, but for whatever reason have decided to attach themselves to us, because that's what we want, relationships. We want to build relationships with the people that are around us. I think the world's kind of starved for relationship builders right now. What do you think?
I definitely believe so, just for the fact that, technology has brought us closer together, but further apart, right? Like, I'm guilty of it. I was at dinner with my son last night, and guess what I was doing? Scrolling Facebook until he said something. And I was like, oh my God, he's so right. Put the phone down. Um, we want the relationship. Sometimes it's just hard for us to figure out how to get into them, right? How do I access that relationship that it's going to help me?
Yeah, how do you understand where someone's coming from, what their needs and motivations with a problem are, and how to offer different opinions on how they might be able to choose what solutions best fit them? So we have some core value pillars, and these are important for us to state to you because they're the things that we want you to hold us accountable for as you talk to us, as you bump into us, or as you maybe even work with us. But that first one right up, accountability. Isabel, talk to them about, tell them what do you think our core pillar of accountability means? Like, how serious do we take accountability?
Really, like, I think just coming from really hard background, sometimes we get stuck in feeling like we're victims to the situation that we're born into. Like, these were the cards that I was dealt. What else can I do? But just taking that self responsibility and empowering yourself, like, how can I learn? How can I grow? That's where the progression comes from, So I think giving that opportunity, I always talk about helping people be exposed. I can't make you do anything, but if I can expose you, that may be the thing that will help change your trajectory. Because that's what happened to me. I grew up in a really, really poor part of Florida. I mean, I'm out in the middle of Lake Okeechobee. It's that poor. Like, nobody lives out there. And had I not had the opportunity to leave that community due to the military, right? Like, had I not left and gone to basic training and gone overseas, my mindset, my experience would have remained the same, but I was exposed to different ways of thinking, being, and things that I experienced. And I literally was talking about it this morning at breakfast. Like, I'm so grateful for where I am because of where I've come from.
And the
So,
people that
yeah.
were around you that helped you to solve problems. You said exposure. I want to give a shout out to a guy named Martin Carell. You don't need to know anything about him other than he's a very bright guy, especially with like thinking about things differently. And he told me one day, he said, Christopher, everything that you know on the face of this earth has come through one of three channels: education,
Mhm.
exposure, and experience, right? It's how we perceive and understand and choose to believe things, to decide things. And so, in that kind of regard, whether you have a question and need education, or whether you need exposed to different thought processes or ways you might solve a problem in a unique way, or whether you need an experience in something that's different, right? You need to be provided an experience. Those are the ways that we want to associate with you specifically, because those are the ways that we believe that we can impact your understanding of what the biggest opportunity that you're likely going to face in the first 20, 30 years of your life may look like. And that's not our opinion, just the data kind of says it too.
It
So
does.
the next core value, Isabel, let's talk about real quick: community. When we talk about community, what are we really getting at?
Um, when I think of community, I literally think of, what I talked about as a child, right? Like, I don't think we experience community at the most honest and innocent level as when you do when you're a kid. Everybody's your neighbor, everybody's your friend. And that authentic engagement in that relationship, you just want to be around really good people, have fun with them, and enjoy them. So when I think of community, that's literally the first thought process that comes to my mind is that image of little kids playing with each other with just no preset expectation. They just want to have a friend. They just want to be neighborly with this person. Like, hey, you want to play with me? You want to hang out? Whereas, sadly, as we get older, we get a little bit more rough around the edges a little bit. But, when I think of community, that's literally what I think about is who can I surround myself with that's going to help me and who I can help, right? Where can we progress together? Can we go out and build, a playhouse and make it the most amazing thing that we've ever experienced, right? Because we're both bringing something dynamic to that relationship. So I think of it from the childhood experience when I think of neighbors.
That's a great way to describe it. I think kids experience community because they hope and they believe. They're not jaded and skeptical like most grown-ups are, especially those grown-ups on social media, right? Facebook isn't the nicest place. But when you talk about community, what it is it's two people. It can be as little as two people. And if you have community between two people, those people have values and They have the ability to obligate themselves, right? And they both trade those things, and that creates the community between them. It's the understanding, the give and take, the reciprocity, the coexistence that helps them, or helps to maintain the most important thing between the relationship is that there's a relationship. You can't have hope and you can't have community if you don't hope and believe in community, right? You're not really going to have it. So that's what we want to promote in there. I think one of our other main core values that it's important to talk about is empathy. And that's a hard one for me even to say sometimes. I may not seem that empathetic. I mean, I'm kind of empathetic, but why don't you tell them what we mean by empathy?
Chris is a bleeding heart for all of you that don't know. The empathy is just being able to see things from someone else's perspective. We tend to take things so personal because we always look at the situation from a personal perspective. But if we just step outside of ourselves for just a minute and put ourselves in the other person's shoes, now you can actually empathize with them and understand where they're coming from, right? Like you can truly see them for who they are, not always just the actions. Like sometimes, well, not sometimes, I've personally had experiences where I felt personally attacked, or somebody did something and they hurt me. But when I took myself out of the photo and I looked at it from their perspective, I could understand that they were hurting, that they were in pain. And what they did wasn't a personal attack. They were just acting from a place of fear. So being able to be empathetic to them allowed me to be unbiased and less selfish and more willing to be kind. To be honest, Chris, like just be kind.
Yeah, I think as unique as every person on earth is, what makes them unique? Their perspective. They're literally the only person that sees it from where they're standing. Like that. And you have to be open enough to understand with empathy that people are going to be different. And that's an incredibly good thing. That difference should make community. Different values, different understandings, different capabilities, right? These are the things that should bind a community, not drive them apart. So we want to have empathy in the way that we approach different people in a community, because we understand that they're necessary. All people are necessary for community. So after empathy, we have, and I like this one, empowerment. Isabel, what are we talking about with empowerment?
So I think I've heard this a couple of times before, but someone says that, some people believe that knowledge is power, but I believe it's what you do with that knowledge that's empowering, right? Like not only do we want to teach, but we also want to build people up so that they can take action for themselves. We're in a world that we just have to realize no one's coming to save us. We have to be our own saviors. So being able to just kind of empower people to believe that they themselves are the change makers, right? Like I'm the one that can make this different. I don't have to wait for someone else to do that for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. And the way I think about it in my head is we want people to realize they're the authors of their story. We want to empower you to understand and decide. I don't want to empower you to choose off a table. Like the whole point of empowerment is that person then feels inspired and capable and able to choose things that their perspective is the only one that can really decide and own, right? So empowerment, kind of a sweet thing. The next one, now I really like this one, freedom of opportunity. What are we talking about with freedom of opportunity is?
Freedom of opportunity. I kind of think of that as more from the perspective of you just being able to choose, right? Like you being able to choose what you want, having that freedom, because now you have that knowledge and that power that you can now choose what you want.
Yeah, I think that everybody probably deserves an opportunity to see all of their options and choose from them. And I think it's pretty cruddy when people only get one or two options to look at, even if many more are known about. Because in my experience, especially with a house, even if it's your best friend, they're going to tell you 75% of the reason why they're doing this, but the other 25% is none of your business. It might be stuff that they can't share. They don't want to share. They don't know how to share. It may just be a feeling. But the point is, there's some things that we need to be empathetic about and offer freedom of opportunity and choices and optionality to what they're seeing, what they're deciding on. Give them a lot of things to look at so that they know, right?
Agreed.
And all those things are great, but the last one probably the most important, because if without this one, man, it's just a bunch of hot air. So impact is a core value that we have. How do we want to create impact for the people that we serve together? Is
I think that, when I'm dying or I'm dead, better said, and people will come to visit me, I want it to be like, I remember it was because of her that I had this opportunity, right? Like, have we impacted change? Have we left things better off than we found them? Are people better off because of knowing us, or have we left them worse? And so for me, that impact has to be a positive one. So our goal is to positively impact people and help them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Impact is the way that we measure our success, the way that we measure the things that we hope to achieve, and it's the way that we look at it to ensure that we're accomplishing the things that we set out for. Our impact is your success. Our goals are to find you where you are, answer questions when you have them, how you are, not care what you look like when you're asking them, right? And help you to see the things that should inform the choices that you need to make for you and your family, right? Shelter is an important reason why buying a house matters. You're got to have shelter, right? We kind of tell everybody in a cheeky way. It's like, listen, let me tell you a secret. You can buy you a house, or you can buy a guy like me another house, but either way, you're buying the house, okay? So the point is, if you're buying the house one way or the other, and you have to have shelter one way or the other, you might as well own the value and some of the other things that come from having a home. Because I'll tell you, for me and my family, and I know Isabel, it's the same for you, having traveled around, both of us spending some time in the military, only to say we've been jostled around a little bit, right? My family never had a home until we bought a house after we got out of the military. And what happened there was incredible, and not from a financial growth standpoint, even though it was, right? We had chickens, we had tomatoes, we had holes in the wall, we had remodels, we had fights about paint color, right? We had all of those things that we never had an opportunity to experience for the 5 or 6 years prior to that, right? We had a place that wasn't just a house, wasn't just a financial investment, wasn't just shelter, it was a home for our family, the first one that we had. And as much as it was a financial impact in our life, it may have been the best financial decision that we've been able to make. It was certainly one of the best decisions that we've made to invest in our family specifically, because a home matters outside of just shelter. So what's the year look like for the rest of the year for us, Isabel? What are we going to be doing? Tell the good people.
Well, now that we have rebranded, it's really just growth driven at this point, right? We have gone through all the process of figuring out what works, what doesn't work, finding the people that are like-minded. And now we're just ready for expansion at this point. I mean, we are currently, I think, in 10 states, looking to add 5 more on before the end of the month. So I'm super excited because I think that, we have created a really strong foundation, a really strong community within our company. And so at this point, we're just looking to grow and impact a lot of new homeowners.
We want to make homeowners. We
Yes,
think that
we
this
do.
is a really important thing. Like the Marine Corps, they have a say, like making Marines is what drill instructors do, right? They make Marines. I don't know, whatever. It's true, they do, and it's bad. Jarhead's like a reason. There's a reason they say that. Marines will get it anyways. We want to make homeowners. If that means answering your questions while you work with someone else so that we can make sure that you're not being fed incorrect information and making choices that aren't exactly what you want, and just side seating, being a good neighbor and being lending an ear to your circumstance so you can become a homeowner. Okay, cool. Let's do that. Our goal is to see more homeowners come into existence over this next 2-3 year period than renters. We don't believe renting is the way that you're going to experience growth in your family, growth in your finances, and protection for as you age and get older and get closer to retirement. The majority of most retirees' assets are found in their primary residence, right? There's a reason for that. And that's what we want to help achieve for all those people that we run into. So for the next several months, you're going to be seeing some changes coming about. We got some stuff that we're planning. We're going to be talking to you a little more purposeful than today's, which is just to tell you, hey, we got a new name, right? It kind of matters to us a lot. Be My Neighbor is something you've heard us talk about before in a kind of a mentality that we take to approaching to people. If you've ever had a neighbor, you already know this. Like, let's talk about that tree that's right on your property line. And when something has to happen to that tree, you want to have a good neighbor in that moment, even if it's that insignificant. You want to have a good neighbor. You want to have a good, strong community. You want to be empathetic to those understandings. You want to look after them and come away with win-win situations. So as the year progresses, as you see some things change, as you see some content coming out, like, follow along. If you have questions, throw them out. And here before long, hopefully we'll have a community that you can come be a part of, so that you can get any answer to any question you have about housing. And we'll promise you in the process, we're not going to solicit you. We're not going to cuss at you, because my grandma's probably going to be around for starters, and Facebook doesn't like that stuff. Those other places don't like it a lot either. But the reality is, buying a home's emotional. If you're married to a home together, you already know, like, buying a home is more emotional than both sets of in-laws coming to stay in with you for Christmas for a week, right? It's an emotional process. And so we want to conduct ourselves in a manner that doesn't excite your emotion, so that you can focus on making good choices without being driven by fear or anxiety or emotionality, right? What else you want to tell the good people, Isabel?
Not really. I think we wrapped it up on this one, but we look forward to doing so much more education, because like I said, education is the first piece of the puzzle. The other portion of it is actually putting that education and knowledge into action. So not only do we want to teach you what you need to know, but we also want to show you how to progress as you move forward. So
growth is a very important thing. They've probably all followed along and see the whole growth indicators that we talk about fairly often. So you can see some of the places that are growing before they do and know what to look for. So maybe you can ride that wave too. That's what it's about. So thank you for your time today. Thanks for following along as you have. If you have any questions, check us out on BeMyNeighbor.mortgage or BMN.mortgage for that matter. And if you have any questions, you want to send them over an email, hello@bmn.mortgage or BeMyNeighbor.mortgage. We look forward to hopefully being your neighbor.
Yes. Good neighbors matter.
Good neighbors
matter. They do.